Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Stuart Green is the managing director of the Armour group of companies. He finds it really quite difficult to talk about what he does at networking meetings, and you'll find out why during the course of this conversation. For him, networking is more about being interested in other people and seeing how he can help them make useful connections, rather than trying to sell his own services. He also has a very on-brand telephone number, as you'll hear at the end. Stuart, thank you very much for being my podcast guest today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, you're the MD of the Armour group of companies, and there's a bit of a clue in the title, but tell us about what you do.
It's we basically put armour around companies, but in the digital way. So we have 4 companies in the group, soon to be 5, and we look at cybersecurity. But most people think that cybersecurity is an IT problem, when it's not. I mean, network armour is the IT side of things, and that really sort of covers about 20% of the business. Mm-hmm. We have digital armour that looks at certifications, policies, procedure, the things that really matter when it comes to formulating a defence strategy. So we look at Cyber Essentials, ISO 27001, PCI DSS, NIST, CAF, things like that. We have airborne armour that does the cybersecurity angle with drones, so that can be a lot of fun. People just don't realise how invasive a drone can be.
Yeah.
And then we've got dark armour that does all of the other stuff that we tend not to publicise, really. So dark armour is the sort of the one we don't talk about, but it's there, and that accounts for about sort of 20-25% of what we do. But the vast majority is through digital armour.
That all sounds really interesting and exciting. So how did you get into this field in the first place? What's your background?
So background, I did 23 years in the Royal Air Force as an engineer. Mm-hmm. In there, but I spent a bit of time doing some strange and unusual jobs, which sort of pretty well grooms you for a world in cybersecurity. So data communications, data security, that sort of thing, both sort of ground-based and air-based. So firefighting, those sort of systems that are always built by the cheapest bidder, I think sort of stands you in good stead for the world of cybersecurity.
Yeah. And what kind of companies do you work with? Is it small companies, large companies, or a variety?
Oh, we work with all sorts. We have sort of people in your field that we look after. We have large organisations, critical national infrastructure, small businesses, media businesses. There's a full range. I mean, everyone's need for cybersecurity is exactly the same. It doesn't matter what size of organisation you are. It's only the scale of it which changes, but all the core needs are exactly the same across the board.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter on company size. Everyone's requirements to keep data private, protected, people protected, businesses protected, they're all the same. So, it's very portable, doesn't matter on company size.
Yeah. And so what can you do to help people to keep themselves and their data safe?
Well, cybersecurity is broken down into 3 things. That's the easiest way to look at it. Understand the threat, assess the risk, do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't fully understand the threat to them.
Yeah.
So we show them the threat to them. We show them how things are vulnerable and to be targeted. And we show how people can be targeted, how people can be compromised, because it's always the human element which is the weakest link.
Yeah.
So understanding the threat is the key thing, the most important thing. Once you can understand the threat, then you can assess the risk. And the more accurate a risk assessment you can do against a threat means you're in a better position to do the right thing. So cybersecurity is really, really simple, straightforward. Understand the threat, assess the risk, do the right thing. And, that's all there is to it, really.
Yeah. But do companies need to do a lot of work to get all this kind of stuff in place? Or, working with somebody like you, do you make it quite simple for them?
It really depends on the mindset of the company. If they want to protect things, then it's very, very simple, straightforward, because they've got the right mindset. Where things fall down is where companies see putting cybersecurity in place as like a box ticking exercise,
Yeah.
and it's those ones that there's always an excuse not to do something, or there's a reason why they can't do something. They're not very proactive in doing it, and their heart's not in it.
Yeah.
But when you've got the right mindset and you actually want to protect your business, which the vast majority do, but some just don't see it, don't value it, and ultimately they're the ones that are going to suffer in the longer term.
Yeah. So where are we most at risk of cyber attack? I mean, it's not just businesses, is it? It's individuals as well. And are there simple things we can be doing to protect ourselves?
Absolutely. I mean, it all comes back to understanding the threat. I mean, if you think that your digital footprint, that's the thing that has value. People say, "Oh, I don't need cybersecurity. I've got nothing of value." They couldn't be more wrong. Everybody has a digital footprint of sorts. So that's made up from emails. It's made up from social media presences. It's made up from banking. It's made up from anything that you do online, any sort of accounts that you have. All brings together your digital footprint. And if a criminal or an organised crime group can become you, that is value.
Yeah.
If they can sort of seize your ID or something along those sort of lines, and they can be you, doesn't matter how big or how small, but once they've got that digital footprint under their control, they can assume your identity online, and it's far, far easier to become you.
Yeah.
So protecting this digital footprint, across the board, doesn't matter if you're a business person, protecting your digital footprint and understanding what your digital footprint looks like, that's key. As soon as you can understand that, you can understand the threat to it, and then the process goes on from there.
Yeah. And I suppose, the landscape's changing all the time, isn't it, with new platforms coming out? Does that mean that what you do has to change all the time to keep up?
Absolutely, every day's a school day. There's no such thing as a sort of dull day. We're constantly not surprised, but constantly amused to see how criminals change their tack, and it's just like there's that little chink in your armour somewhere, and they'll find it, and they'll find new ways to exploit it every day. So always being on top of what your footprint looks like, and understanding it, and understanding where your data is, that just helps close all that down, because you've got to stay one step ahead of the criminals, and they're always one step ahead of you. So it's always got to be a constant game. It doesn't matter how old or how young you are.
Yeah. So what do you enjoy most about your job?
Oh, this is one of these jobs where you have very, very few enjoyable days. A lot of the time, we deliver bad news to people, so that's never ever enjoyable. But on the time when we get a result, it may be that someone's been compromised. They get in touch with us, and we can actually stop the attack getting worse. I mean, one result we had, we got a call from someone, and within 15 minutes, we'd stopped the attack. Within 2 hours, we'd traced the source of the attack. Within 12 hours, we'd got the servers that were actually conducting the attack switched off, and they were in Australia.
Right.
So when you have a day like that, and you can get that sort of result so that other people can't be affected, yes, you've sorted out, your new client that came on board, but the wider impact is that you've stopped that problem from affecting other people as well.
Yeah.
So people who haven't got the benefit of using us actually get the benefit of using us, albeit indirectly.
Yes.
So that's a good day. That sort of thing is a good day, and probably get about one of those every 2 months. But it is difficult to sort of get on top of attacks once they've actually gone on for a long period of time, because the longer somebody's in your system, the more damage they can do.
Yeah.
And on average, someone's in a network 210 days before the attack actually happens.
Wow.
210 days, somebody can actually be in your system before you'll notice that they're there. So if you can imagine the scale of the damage that they can do when they're in amongst your stuff for that 210 days, it is quite phenomenal, really. The attack is just the sort of end part.
Yeah.
They might have already done the damage, might have already stolen the data, and it's knowing that they're there. So really, it's got to be a regular check to understand if somebody else is there. And then a lot of the time, businesses just don't do this. They don't check their networks over. They don't test the defences, and it's this sort of checking and testing that's got to happen on a continuous basis. Because obviously, the more you do that, the more you understand the threat, and the more that you can test your defences, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, and of course, the way the internet is now, you can be attacked from literally anywhere in the world, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we look at the attack that we're talking about there, what makes a good day, that attack originated from Australia. So, even if you did call the police, there's not a lot the police can actually do because the attack is originating from outside of the UK.
Yes.
So the whole political chain that they've got to go through to actually do an investigation in the US is an absolute minefield. It's never going to be resolved within a couple of hours.
No.
So that's where people like us can sort of come in and see what's going on. It's almost like looking at the Matrix. Once you've seen it so many times as we have, you pretty much get a bit of a feel for it.
Yeah.
And then that's where our experience and knowledge comes in, because we've generally seen all this sort of stuff before.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a bit about networking now then. Your colleague Sam Drinkle put us in touch, and I met Sam a few years ago when he was in his previous role, and we met at a networking meeting. And I understand that you also met Sam through networking too. So tell me about how that happened.
Well, I would imagine we've probably got a mutual friend called Austin Hempstead.
We certainly have. He's been on my show before.
Yeah. There we go. So he's to blame for this, because
he's blamed for lots of things,
actually,
isn't he, Austin?
Oh, he gets everywhere. He gets everywhere. So Austin got. I've known Austin for a lot of years, and it was through Austin that we met Sam.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of, people do business with people, don't they?
Yes.
So it was that sort of that meeting, and just as you get to know people, you either like them or dislike them, and Sam's one of those people that you can't help but like.
Yeah.
And that's how the sort of relationship evolved.
So tell me about your approach to networking. How do you use it for your business?
Well, that was just a really difficult story to tell, because you can't go to a networking session and take a box of cybersecurity so that people can see it, touch it, get to love it. You can't do that. And a lot of people perceive cybersecurity to be that IT thing.
Yeah.
So I never go along to any networking session to talk about what we do.
Yeah.
The way that I approach it is I'm interested in what other people do.
Yes.
Because then when you're interested in what other people do, you start a conversation. And then the conversation just evolves, or it doesn't. So we never do any sort of active marketing, because obviously we can't kiss and tell. We can't say, oh, look at what happened to such and such a business. Because that's potentially sensitive and potentially reputationally damaging for them. So we just keep ourselves to ourselves, and there's no active marketing that we really do. I mean, other than podcasts like this, obviously. But we have to sort of lurk in the shadows, and we don't publicise who we work with on any social media channels or anything like that. If people want to say that they're working with us, that's fine, because that's their risk. That's up to them. But we never publicise who we work with or what we're doing or anything like that. So it's really difficult to do that marketing side, and people just need to learn about what we do from normal human relationships and human interaction.
Yeah. And it never works to go into a room and try and sell what you do anyway, does it?
Well, no, but how many people do?
Yeah, I've seen people try. They don't tend to get very far, I've noticed.
No. And then networking for them doesn't work. So, it's a very sort of bizarre circumstance. I mean, networking for me is just getting to know people, and how can I help them is what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
as in how can I help them grow their business? Who do I need to introduce them with? Do I know somebody that could possibly benefit from their services? Or, that's how we
Yes.
generally work.
Yeah. And, and when you can connect two people who then go on to do business together, that feels really good, doesn't it? And Austin, as we
Yeah,
know, does
yeah.
that kind of thing all the time. So that's why he's so happy, I think.
Yeah, he's an absolute master at it, isn't he? He's annoyingly good at it. And I hope he's listening, because he'll be chuckling.
You'll have to tag him and make sure that he tunes into this one. So
I'm sure he does. He's an avid fan.
So where do you tend to do your networking, Stuart? I mean, I presume you can work for anybody anywhere around the country, but do you network locally? Do you use something more regionally?
There's a bit we do locally, but there's a bit we do nationally as well. We sort of pop into strange places from time to time with other like-minded people. So we do a bit in London, and it's just what feels right, really. Because sometimes there are networking groups which just aren't for us, because either people are there to actually try and sell their services, which doesn't work for anybody, or they're just that they're not in the right mindset for us. So it's a bit, at the risk of sounding snobby, it's a bit selective. It's a difficult industry to sort of to be in, really.
Yeah. So if people want to find out more about your business and what you do and how they can protect themselves and how you can help them to do that, what's the best way to get in touch with you, Stuart?
Well, we've got a company page on LinkedIn, so that's the Armour on that. We have a few websites. thearmourgroup.uk is the main website. Or we have what I think is a really cool telephone number, but most people just think I'm a sad old geek. But telephone number is 033 210 2600, and obviously 210 210 days 2600. That's a bit of a bizarre tone that used to hack telephone systems. So 210 2600, that's why we have that number. So yeah, I don't get out much, can you tell?
It's on brand, Stuart. It's on brand.
Well, we try, but how do you get creative with a telephone number? That's the only way I could think of coming out with that, really.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for being my guest, and best of luck with your business going forward. I'm sure you're just going to get even more busy in the future as technology advances and the criminals find ways to new and inventive ways to get inside our data. So I'm sure people will be beating your door down to get help.
Well, in the nicest possible way. I hope they're not, but we sort of need them to. So we do rely on the criminals being good at what they do, because that's where people need our help. So thanks for that.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, Stuart. Thanks for listening to Small Business Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.